When there is conflict, confusion, and or change, the result is often a level of hurt. Grace and Holy Trinity Church has experienced hurt in the recent years. What do we do with hurt? Deep hurt can fester forever. Have you ever hurt so much that you want to throw proverbial stones or rocks at another person? Throwing out our rocks through words and actions is easiest. In as often an annoying way, Jesus shows us a different way, one that is harder. I invite us today into a gift of healing. Healing can be a slow release of hurt. And on this Sunday, Christ the King Sunday, the last Sunday of the liturgical year, we acknowledge Jesus as a king. And like a New Year's resolution, what hurt do we want to release as we go into a new year? This is hard work. Jesus understands both hurt and the work. But he's often offering healing over throwing rocks. And in the gospel today, Jesus' words are opposite of the kings who are ruling the world around him. They hate to hear about his acts of healing others and the promise of a new way to live. A way of trusting God's truth. A truth that is painted through the practice of forgiveness. So Jesus challenges Pilate. He challenges the world. He challenges you and me to forgive. For forgiveness heals the broken world. We hear over and over again in the gospel about the truth. And God's truth has shown how healing opens this wholeness for a community to rebuild and to live in peace. For while holding hurt, it's like clenching our rock to a stone can result in this continuation of hurt. Forgiveness replaces hurt with hope and takes us to this place of peace. And Jesus, knowing all of this, knows that his ultimate hurt is coming as he stands before Pilate. And Pilate knows, the Jewish leaders know, and Jesus also knows all these questions that are being given to him about, are you the king, means that they want to understand how he is going to die. You see, there's a difference between Pilate sentencing him to death, that is, the Roman way, because he answers to the Roman authorities, than the Jewish leaders who have a different way of killing those who they feel have hurt the community and shamed God. The crucifixion is the way that the Romans end people's life, while for the Jewish leaders, if they sentence someone to death, it means they go out into the street and the gathered crowd stones them to death. I wonder if they were worried about whether the crowd would actually pick up those stones and begin to hurl at this person who says God's kingdom is breaking in. One thing that is clear of those Jewish leaders is the bad press that comes with stoning someone. You have to remember that for centuries, prophets and people have been waiting for the true king to come. And Jesus knew that the cross would be how he would earn his crown. Often knowing the why and the way still requires us to look back. You see, Jesus had determined the way that he was going to die 15 chapters before in John's gospel, when he said, "Just as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, so must the Son of Man be lifted up." Jesus would die the Roman way. Maybe this is why the serpents or snakes are symbols of hospitals and first responders, if you look on page 7 in your bulletin. Those people and places that offer healing when hurt is present in humans. There's this artist-designed monument that stands today where tradition tells us that Moses lifted up the snake in the wilderness. The snake is wrapped around his staff with angels' wings on the top. It is awesome to look up and to see this incredible monument. But I think it's also a reminder that we're called to look up to God, to give thanks, but we're also called to look up to God, to offer up to God our hurt and our burdens. After the prayers of the people today, you will be invited for a prayer of healing. There will be 4 clergy stationed in the 4 corners of our church. I will start at the altar, but then to come to the vacant corner. And they're there simply to hear what is weighing on your heart. What burden are you carrying? Or what celebration of joy are you holding today? And in that private moment of offering that to the clergy so they can share with you in a prayer for healing, we know that God is with us. An important piece to this is that there is no wrong way to ask for healing. You might ask a prayer for healing for our community, for the Richmond community, for our country, for our world. Lord knows there's many places that need healing around the globe. You might give thanks to God for the birth of a child, or pray for someone who is sick, or someone who's close to death or has died. You might ask a prayer for forgiveness of someone who has hurt you, or maybe someone that you have hurt, even if they never acknowledge the hurt. Simply by coming forward, you are like Moses, kind of making your stake in the ground to say, God, I need your help. And God, you are the only source of relief with the burdens that we carry. We intentionally do not go straight to these stations after the sermon because I want you to have the time to think about it. I want you to have the shared experience as we hear the words and the prayers of the people today, and we hear the words of the confession before we decide if we might come or not. What do you think that you would like to release to God today? During this time, we will have some soft organ music being played and a hymn that will eventually be offered to us. And your sense of healing might be just to sit in your pew and to close your eyes and to listen to the music. Your healing might be to sit and to meditate on one of the many beautiful pieces of sacred art that we have around our space. Whatever form that you choose to take, I want you to know that we are creating this space and this time, and we'll take as much time as we need so that every prayer can be offered, so that maybe we can leave this current year with a less burden and begin a process of healing, one prayer at a time. This healing service is offered every Wednesday in our chapel. And I have found personally in my own life that when you start a practice of healing, you can begin to experience the truth of God that lives deep inside of us, because we begin to see the world in a different lens. For the truth is a loving God who took on the form of a human and walked through this world despite all the evil and hurt and hatred that was thrown his way. We turn to Jesus and we ask him for forgiveness, not only for ourselves, but also for each other, and also any history that continues to fester in our community. Lifted up high on the cross, like the snake on Moses' staff, where we are witness to this absolute forgiveness that Jesus gave us on the cross. And we know that people threw their stones of words and of threats towards him, but every time they would do this, he would pray for them. Friends, whenever there's hurt, instead of hurling rocks at one another, we find ourselves seeking healing. And I will say that I have witnessed in church communities who have done this hard work of healing, that they begin to see something new. They feel the resilience of being a community of God's truth, living out in every way. And it is beautiful and it is strengthened. And I believe that we'll find this too. Amen.